All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, or good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to present today's community conversation, Helmets to Hardhats, Building Civilian Careers for Military Members. My name is Jeff Feldman, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Communications at NASW New Jersey, and I'll be your moderator today. And we are very happy to be joined by Mr. Christopher DiMeo, who is the Director of Programs at the New Jersey State Building and Construction Trades Council. And he's going to be sharing with us about the National Helmets to Hardhats program, which is a program to help military service members transition into civilian jobs. And then we'll also be hearing today from our current MSW intern, Mark Robbins, who is a veteran and who participated in the Helmets to Hardhats program prior to pursuing his education in social work. So before we begin, just a couple of items. I do just want to remind you all that we are recording today's presentation, and the recording will be available on our YouTube channel after the presentation today. And we will also be mailing the presentation to everybody who registered. So if you registered and could not join us live, welcome. We hope you're watching this on recording. And with that, we're going to proceed forward with Chris's presentation, and then Mark will speak. And we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A, hopefully. So if you have any questions for our presenters, you can put them right in the chat, and we will answer those most likely at the end of the presentation, unless it's something that's very relevant in the moment, in which case I'll interrupt the presentation. With that said, why don't I turn things over to Mr. DiMeo, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about not just the building trades, but also Helmets to Hardhats. It's a great opportunity, obviously, to always spread the word out there. So I will pull up my slideshow here. Let's see. All right, so again, my name is Chris DiMeo. I represent the New Jersey State Building and Construction Trades Council. I am the coordinator of the New Jersey Helmets to Hardhat program. Quite simply, we are a transitional program for servicemen and women, veterans, looking to get into a career in the construction industry. Before I talk about the Helmets to Hardhat program, I think it's best to start with the building trades and what we do and what we represent. We represent 15 affiliated construction trade unions throughout the state of New Jersey. From this slide, you can see some of the trade opportunities that we have within the building trades. It's 15, they say 15, but there's more. Pipe trades take up a good combination of plumbers, pipe fitters, sprinkler fitters, steam fitters, HVAC. Each one of these trade unions has what is called a registered apprenticeship program. Essentially, that is a training program. It's the start of the education process to become a carpenter, an electrician, or a plumber. Each one of these trade unions has a training facility. They're broken up into locals throughout the state of New Jersey. Whether you live in North Jersey, South Jersey, there's territories that you would stay in within your apprenticeship program. There's, like I said, there's training centers where you would do, the book work, and obviously what you're learning out in the field is honed in a classroom environment. So with that being said, I think it's best to really start with talking about apprenticeship. What apprenticeship is. This is sort of a generic definition of apprenticeship, but in the building trades, and simply put, it's a combination of two things. On-the-job training and classroom training. When you think of apprenticeship and 1 year of apprenticeship, think of hours. 1 year of apprenticeship is around 2,000 hours. 1,800 of those hours are out on the job, which we call OJT. So mostly you're learning and training while doing. It's the best way to learn the trade. But there is a classroom aspect to it. There is this training center where you're sort of honing your skills, what you're learning out in the field, a combination with also book work, certifications. The great thing about apprenticeship, and every apprentice that we bring into our trade unions, is that we pay for your education. So when you enter in, it's at no cost. We train each and every one of our apprentices, um, you know, and that typically, a full term of apprenticeship, which is usually 4 or 5 years, can be up to 35,000 just to train one single apprentice. So we're making an investment when we're bringing someone into our program. Um, uh, but when I say 4 or 5 year program, again, it's hours. So 2,000 hours per year of apprenticeship is doable within the year, but it could take you longer in the year. And if you're good at what you do and you're a good worker, you can do it in less than a year. So that's apprenticeship. The process of getting into an apprenticeship program in one of our trade unions, I should always say this is an opportunity not for everyone. It's definitely hard work, but it's also rewarding. I say process because it's not as simple as filling out an application and going to work, right? It's first and foremost figuring out which trade union you want to apply to, and that starts with your interest, right? Not every trade union runs a recruitment process on a daily basis. Now, there are some certain trades that, yes, they'll take applications every single day, but for the most part, they're, trades have a recruitment process, and an application could occur only once a year, sort of like if you were applying to a college or a university. So making an application is really the first step. Most of the time, you will have to go down to the training center, pick up the application, submit it with certain requirements. 3 basic requirements that are across the board for all trade unions is: number 1, you need to be 18 years old. Number 2, you need to have a high school diploma or a GED. And number 3, you need to have a valid driver's license. 18 years old, first and foremost, is state law. To work on a job site, you need to be 18. High school diploma, GED. I think most people, especially with the Almost to Hardhat program that we're working with, already satisfies that. And then the driver's license is an important factor. You got to be able to get to work. This is not a typical 9 to 5. It's locations that, public transportation may not be going to. It's early hours. You need to be able to get to work. That's important. It's also how you get through your apprenticeship program, collecting hours, right? There are other requirements for the application depending upon the trade. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to be an electrician," for an example, obviously I'll let them know what the requirements are. But that particular trade, I can tell you, you need at least 1 year of algebra, right? So like I said, there are varying requirements that are necessary, and it depends on the trade for the most part. Once you successfully, and I should say this, since COVID especially, some of the trade unions have sort of pivoted to other ways of accepting applications, virtually online. So things are changing, right? It's not as fluid as it used to be. A lot of that has to do with the pandemic. Once you successfully complete an application, come back a few weeks later, take an entrance exam. I'd say 80% of our trade unions will have you take an aptitude test, testing you on basic subjects like math and English. These tests, for someone right out of high school, it may not be as much of an issue, but for someone who may be away from math for quite some time, you may want to, hit the books on this, prepare. Being part of our Helmets to Hardhat program, we most certainly help you pass an entrance exam. I'll talk about that a little bit, but yes, you will need to pass the entrance exam to move on to the interview part of the process, right? The interviews for sure the most important part. It's making a good first impression. It's meeting the not only the trade union and their affiliates, but also the contractors who are essentially your employer, right? They're the ones who hire you out of the union membership. That probably weighs the heaviest in terms of how you get accepted into one of our apprenticeship programs. And then lastly, there are physical and drug screening. This is definitely a career that everyone knows is, can be dangerous. It's, especially some particular trades. Being able to physically do the job is an important part of it. And, there's obviously no room for drugs and things of that nature because of the dangers. They usually bring in the new apprentices and then have them take the physical and drug screening. So that's usually part of the process once you are accepted into the program. But again, I call it a process because this isn't, this could take some time. I've seen a process run for months, right? For the most part, a trade union has a recruitment process that's pretty standard, and it's, an application, it's an aptitude test, an interview, and then you find out if you're getting accepted or not. And that happens within a few weeks. But, I don't like to get people's hopes up in terms of, hey, they come to me and thinking that, am I going to go to work in 2 or 3 weeks? A lot of the times that's not the case. This is definitely a process. So what the building trades offers, great pay and benefits. I think anyone who knows anything about union construction, they think benefits. To me, that's the ticket. The benefits, it's putting money in the bank. The pay is, competitive to start, but as you're going through your apprenticeship program, it most certainly increases. We'll deep dive on the next slide on that. Free education and training, I sort of mentioned that already. We pay for all of our apprentices to be educated in the trade unions, and some of the certifications that they need to earn to better their prospect for work, right? Those are costly. So it's nice to know that when you enter into this career path, when you enter into this an apprenticeship program, that there's no cost to you, and that all you really need to do is sort of be available, be there, and learn and take advantage of all the opportunity that this apprenticeship platform does allow. Lifelong opportunity for advancement. I always like to say, when you enter into an apprenticeship program, it's like you are your own business, right? Because whatever you put in is what you get out. We've, just to give you an example, we've had apprentices who've now gone on to own multi-million-dollar contracting companies, right? So there's no ceiling to this career path. If you want to be a union guy, a journey person for a career, and you'll see, you can retire and live a good middle class life. And then work you can take pride in is, I think, listen, this is sort of a unique career path, right? You like to work with your hands. These are the individuals we see coming to us, but you're building stuff, right? You're creating, right? So, the old guy always tells the story when you're driving, tells his kids the story when they're driving in the car. Well, oh, you see that, see Giant Stadium, I built that. Or, see that hospital over there, I built that. So like, you become a prideful person when you enter into the trade unions, and, you look back at things that you've built. So I think that's a really important element on it. So back to the pay, I put together this little graph here, and a lot of these figures, they change. These are, usually, adjusted on a yearly basis, but I wanted to give you an idea of the hourly wages, for the trades. So, just looking at the trades to the left, and then you'll see the apprenticeship starting wage right there in the middle. So that's day one. That's, maybe knowing absolutely nothing about the craft, right? That's what you command per hour, day one, the first time you step foot into that building. These are negotiated rates through the union and the contractors. And then if you look over to the right, you see the journey person rate, and you now know that 4 or 5 years is what an apprenticeship program is. You see that there's a significant gap in between to the starting wage and then the journey person wage. So usually every 6 to 12 months, as you're learning more, as you're gaining more experiences, you're getting rate increases. So the $20 an hour, let's just say for an example, 6 to 12 months later will turn into 23 and change. right? Or, another 6 to 12 months, 26, until you obviously top out and complete your apprenticeship program. So this is a career not only that competitively starts with a good pay on a good pay scale, but you're also getting rate hikes, pay raises, so to speak, as you're going through your apprenticeship program, which is kind of nice. And remember, nothing's coming out of your pocket for your education. But like I said, the ticket here is the benefits, right? You know, the trade unions have great benefits, and across the board, you can look at up and down on all of these trades and ask me, hey, which trades have, the best benefits and which trades pay the most? But really, especially when I'm working with veterans, through our Helmut Starter program, I always say, hey, listen, what are your interests? Like, what are you most interested in pursuing? Because I think all the pay is fair and competitive, and you have the opportunity to get great benefits. So I listed some of the benefits that we do offer. Obviously, health, welfare, not just for you but your family, pension and annuity. So putting money in the bank, especially in this type of career, is essential, right? Where wear and tear and injuries could occur. A pension, I mean, you can count on one hand what sort of career paths have pensions in this day and age. Trade union workers still have pensions, right? Just to give you some insight on a pension, every hour you work, money's, you get pension credits. Everyone's pension is created equal, but we've got guys right now retiring that have pensions upwards of 10, 15,000 per month in retirement, which is well over $100,000 a year to be retired. On top of that, we have an annuity, which is like a 401k, right? Money invested, growing throughout time. Every hour you work, money's going through, not just to the pension, but also to the annuity. Disability, vacation fund, which is sort of a sneaky way to set people up with a forced savings account. Listen, we call them rainy days, right? There's going to be times where you're not going to be able to go to work. This is a per hour career, right? If you don't work the hour, you don't get paid the hour. So, way back when they thought, hey, well, listen, we need to figure out ways to get guys to save money, for rainy days or COVID or whatever it may be, the economy just not producing the work that it should be. So guys come out per year, sometimes 10,000 in that vacation fund. And if it's a good year, yeah, you go take a vacation. If not, that's money to play with. If you had to sit a month or two, right? The benefit package range anywhere between $30 and $45. I'll say this: the first year apprentice makes that exact same benefit package as a guy who's been in 34 years. So if you're starting out at 20, you add 35, let's just say, for a benefit package. First year apprentice is making $55 an hour, right? A journey person's commands just shy of $100 an hour, right? That's so. Listen, this isn't. This could be pretty lucrative, right, for someone. And listen, this is just the apprenticeship and journey person right here. There's foreman, there's supervisor, there's other avenues to be taken to earn even more money. But I think it's important to understand that the benefits, that's the real advantage when you go to a union construction trade, right? You have people who within that membership who are fighting for these sort of packages, right? And they're protecting their workers in other ways, for instance, like disability. But this is an opportunity to retire, right? This is an opportunity to, because you're not going to be an iron worker for into your 60s, right? That's a tough industry, right? And some of these trades are tough. So it's nice to know that you've put the work in, but you have a lot to show for it at the end of it, right? You'll be able to retire one day here. Qualities of an apprentice, it's hard to get into a trade union. It's even harder to maintain once you are in, because like I said, whatever you put in is what you get out. You need to get a good reputation. How the trade unions work is you throw your name in a book, right? And if your name goes to the top, if a contractor comes and says, I need 10, whether it's an apprentice or a journey person, I need 10 of them. If your name is within that first 10, you go to work. But the real key is not leaving a contractor, right? So like, let's just, every job comes to an end, right? We're building MetLife Stadium, and that job's even going to come to it the end at a point in time. The key is to link up with a contractor who doesn't want to lose you. So like when that job ends, the contractor could either, send you back to the union hall or take you to the next job. So, we get guys and girls who stick with contractors for a career. So I think it's important, especially when I'm working with our program participants, to let them know like what the expectations are, not just to get in, but also once they are in. And, we're looking for dependable people, and that's kind of fully loaded word. Someone who works hard, obviously, but someone who shows up every day on time, right? Someone who's proactive. And a lot of times, like in a trade, like this is like a real interest for someone. So it's easy to be proactive and hardworking when that interest is so high. Eager to learn and be trainable. I mean, that's like the key elements for an apprentice, right? You're going through a training program. Enjoy working with your hands is kind of obvious, right? Following directions, even getting into the trade, they're always looking for sneaky ways to sort of minimize the list, so to speak, right? I get 100 guys applying to be an electrician, and we're only bringing in 25. Well, how can we knock some of these people off this list? Let's see if they don't follow directions, right? But once you get in, following directions is paramount. Working well with others, it's this is, especially as an apprentice, this is a business where you're going to be working with a lot of people, for better or worse, but you gotta get the job done in an hour's time, right? You get an hour's pay. So being a team player is huge. And obviously a lot of the times, we're looking for a lifetime, a career opportunity for a lifetime. This is really what it is. And that's something that you want to demonstrate at the table when you're looking to get into a trade union. It's like, we're making an investment in you, $35,000 a lot of the times for a full apprenticeship program. Are you committed? Is this something that you want to do for a lifetime? And if you can sell yourself as someone who, this is where they want to be, this is the career, you could see the big picture, right? Not just the small stuff in front of you. Well, then, there's a trust there, right? Now, a little bit about Helmets to Hardhats. I put some links up here for you. This Build Your Career in Construction is actually a book. If I was there in person today, I'd hand you one of these books, but we do have it in a PDF form. This Build Your Career in Construction book has every trade that we list, every trade that we represent listed, a short synopsis of what that trade is, a little bit about their apprenticeship program, contact information, probably the most important thing, contact information for those particular locals. It's without exaggeration, it's hours and hours of online research condensed into one book. A great resource for anyone who is dealing with a veteran who doesn't really, you're new to this, you can jump right into this thing and give all the information you need. Perfect tool. And I'm happy to send whoever some books if necessary, so you can have a hard copy. Registering for New Jersey Helmets to Hardhat, there's our registration link, excuse me. Pretty much the first step when we're working with someone, get them registered, get all their information, especially location and interest levels in terms of which trades they want to pursue. So those are some links for you guys. I'll leave it up for a minute.
Sure. Chris, if I could interrupt for 1 second.
Absolutely.
In the chat, I typed it into the chat if anybody's looking for it. And then Lakita is asking the question for Helmets to Hardhat. There are programs based in other states as well as in New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yes. So besides New York and New Jersey, where we have sort of our own entity of the program, Helmets to Hardhats, this is a national program. In New Jersey, we're unique in a sense where, well, I should say this, and for the national program, it's a small organization that represents obviously the entire country, and for the most part, they're a web page, a very resourceful web page that sort of steers participants in the right direction. We're unique here in New Jersey because we have someone like me in place who actually will work with the veteran one-on-one through the entire process, from hi, my name is, to all the way and making sure that they're not only successfully into an apprenticeship program, but then even beyond that, to make sure that they're happy and everything's going well, and linking them to resources if necessary. So that's why in New Jersey we're a little bit unique. We have the ability to sort of work with individuals more on a one-on-one basis, and that's what we do, and we're sort of known for that throughout this state. But yeah, but it's a national program. I can most certainly send information on the on them and their webpage. I can put it in the chat once I turn this slideshow off. Yeah, so here's a little bit about what we do. Obviously, like we mentioned, we transition military personnel, National Guard reservists, and veterans into careers in the building and construction trade industry. We look to put them into sustainable careers, right? Here I mentioned that we are in coordination with the National Helmets to Hardhats program, so we work in conjunction with them, but we are essentially our own entity. But a few of the things that we do with Helmets to Hardhats is, once we register them into our program, like I mentioned, we're working with them from, what you want to do, right? And a lot of times we get individuals who don't know exactly where they want to be. They know they like to work with their hands. Like that's the one thing we get. And, maybe they have little to no trade experience, but then we also get, individuals who drove trucks in the military, or who were welders. So we get everything, to be honest, but we start essentially right from the beginning. What's your interest? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? What's your, do you want to be an electrician? Electrician is not for everyone. It's pretty technical. Do you want to be a carpenter? Pretty popular, right? So, career counseling is a big element, right? Getting to know the person, figuring out what their interests are. And obviously we help them through that application process that we discussed, right? Where and when to pick up an application. Some of our trade unions do first come, first serve application process, and that could be pretty wild. The heavy equipment operators, local 825, which is like the trade to be in. Once upon a time, because now since COVID, they've changed a little bit, and I don't know for the better, but they would have 200 applications, and they would open their doors on a Tuesday morning, and they would have individuals showing up Friday, after work, the few days prior, and they would camp out for that application. That's how serious it was, and now they're doing it online. Now it's like now it's like buying concert tickets, right? We've all been there where we're hoping to get the tickets, but if our computer buffers, sort of like earlier, we may miss out, right? So I don't know which way is better, but it's competitive just to get an application. So, that's an important part, like to make sure we're, giving them those expectations and letting them know, like, this is just to get an application can be tricky, right? Helping them through the entrance requirements, right? If necessary, helping them get, if there's a lot of times there's driver's license issues, right? That's one that's a big one for us, right? Getting DD 214 forms, right? So, that's a big one. A lot of servicemen and women are falling through the cracks. A lot of, they're having, I want to say committing, but they've gone through minor offenses that have now indicated that they're other than honorable discharge, and we're still working with those people, but those people lose their benefits, and we want to make sure that we're there to support them and access the correct paperwork so they can apply, right? Help them pass the entrance exam. I mentioned this earlier, but we have a program which is work keys based. A lot of the trade unions offer a work keys test, an aptitude test, and so we help them prepare for that test. Some of these trade union tests aren't easy, especially if you haven't been around the material for a while. So that's a big part of it. Interview coaching is also another big element. Any participant that's going to sit in for an interview is given a lengthy session to sort of give them insight on what that looks like, right? How to walk into the room, how to present yourself, how to, questions that they may ask. It's not what it's who you are, right? We're looking for personality and character. We're looking for someone who's dependable, right? Someone who's going to be hardworking, someone who's going to work well with others. So it's like we're hiring the intangibles, right? What you can't bring to the table, like you know, and we always say there's no one, and that's why the program's called Helmets to Hard Hats, seamless transition. Like, you know, there's no one who demonstrates those type of leadership qualities and characteristics than veterans, right? I mean, you know, they're also the ultimate team players, right? That's just what they do. And then, you know, referral to supportive services. You know, I mean, there's, you know, just to give you some insight on some you know, veteran issues. I mean, we've a lot of veterans with disabilities, and you know, a lot of veterans who suffer from PTSD, and you know, which, you know, a lot of issues with you know, homelessness and underemployment, unemployment, but also underemployment, suicide. That's a big one. You know, so you know, we're always making sure that the veteran and servicemen and women know that there are supportive services that we can link them to help them for that thing, for those types of issues. Most of the individuals we work with are underemployed, right? Looking for a more sustainable career, right? Maybe they work a job, so to speak. But we want to make sure that they're comfortable and happy, and you know, it's not always the easiest nut to crack in terms of, you know, getting a serviceman and woman, veteran, reservist, National Guard to sort of be vulnerable. But I think it's important to let them know at the minimum that we are here to support and help them in any fashion, not just, you know, not just find them a career, not just get them into a trade union, or an apprenticeship program, but also, you know, help them with you know, anything else that they need, right? So, you know, these are some of the things that we do. And then, you know, and then even after they're successfully placed into a training, we like to track them, right? Make sure that they're working, make sure they're happy where they're at, make sure they're, you know, getting a good reputation within their membership, that, you know, work's not slow, or, you know, anything that's going on with their lives. Cause I think that's an important element too, just to follow up, right? Not just have them be accepted and sort of wash our hands with it, you know, because, you know, you'd be surprised, you know, it's very disheartening to talk to a trade union and say, hey, well, you know, Joe left 3 months ago, and me not know that, right? And not know where Joe went, for instance. I think it's an important thing to mention that, you know, apprentices, once they get into an apprenticeship program, are able to access GI benefits, right? As long as they're eligible. This is something that a lot of, you know, veterans don't even know about, right? They automatically assume college, right? Or school. Well, apprenticeship is school. So as long as they're satisfying the work hours and taking the necessary classes as an apprentice, they can access GI benefits, which is huge. For them, there's no money towards their education. So it's really going directly into their pocket. So, you know, if they're only making 20 an hour to begin, but they're also getting their GI benefit on top of that, you know, it's a nice feature, right? So that's something that always needs to be mentioned. You know, this is something that sort of is not understood all the time.
Chris, if I could ask a quick question, sorry.
Absolutely.
Just about the list of services you provided on the previous page. I love that those are being offered to folks, particularly the referral to supportive services. Is this menu unique to New Jersey because of the position that you're in, or is this like standard across the nation for the Helmets to Hard Hats efforts?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. This is definitely something that we do within our program in New Jersey. You know, I think, you know, just from years of doing this, you know, so if you go to our webpage, I'll have just like links of different services, and just even something as simple as how do I get my DD 214 forms, right? You know, all the way to, you know, Rolling Thunder, which is an organization that'll help a veteran who's, you know, maybe not able to pay rent, right, for a month. But I would say that, you know, the national program probably will do this sort of thing. I just don't know. I don't want to commit to saying that they're doing it with every participant they work with, right? But I think it's a major part of it. You know, we definitely recommend just within, because when we say helmets to hard hats, it's a New Jersey building trades operated program, but it's all the trade unions who are helmets to hard hats, right? The electricians, the plumbers, they're all helmets to hard hat participants, right? And it's important that they also have those same services because they're the ones seeing the apprentice, right? Our helmets to hard hat participant, veteran servicemen and women, reservists, whatever it may be, on a daily basis, right? So they're the ones really who need the resources to help, even more so than us. So, and New Jersey definitely does a good job in making sure that all their veteran apprentices are sort of in tune to that, and that they can come for help or assistance if needed. Which again, like I said, is easier said than done, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah. And so this is my contact information. If you want to write it down, I'll leave it up there.
Are you able to share these slides, Chris, so that I can send them out to the people that registered after the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share this. I can share I can also share a paper registration form for our program. And like I said, if you want, I can send you some books if you think that'd be beneficial. I can mail out a couple books to you guys.
Maybe if people want the books, they can reach out to you directly.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because obviously that link takes you to the book in a PDF form, so it's not like you don't have it, if needed.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. This is fantastic. I'm so glad to learn that a program like this exists. I mean, I think one of the greatest shames in our nation is that people who have served in the defense of our country come back and they can't find housing, they can't find employment, they're struggling to make ends meet or just to survive. And so I'm so glad that literally a lifeline like this exists. I wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of time before we go into Q&A for Mark to share some of his story. As I mentioned, Mark is an MSW intern with NASW New Jersey. He is a military veteran and came through the Helmets to Hard Hats program prior to beginning his social work education. So Mark, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Jeff.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for that presentation. I mean, I was going through my little talking points and I'm pretty sure I got a big old check next to all of them. That was a heck of a presentation there. Thank you.
Mark, thank you, Mark.
Yeah. So kind of like what Jeff said, I myself am a veteran. I'm a former paratrooper in the U.S. Army. I served with the 25th Infantry and the 82nd Infantry's different brigade combat teams from 2009 to 2014. After coming home, after transitioning from uniform to civilian life, employment was definitely one of those more difficult spots of civilian life to hammer down for me. I did a lot of bouncing around between different jobs. I think maybe the longest I held was a year within those first 5 after coming home. Right there around 2019 though, is when a good friend of mine out in Oklahoma asked me if I had ever heard of the Helmets to Hard Hats, which I had not. I looked into them and I think I immediately sent an email out to Mr. DiMeo, who then sent me the registration forms and so much information that within just probably a good few months, like Mr. DiMeo said, it is a process. But within a few months, I had calls back from the Boilermakers, the pipe fitters, and the iron workers. I ended up taking a position as an apprentice with the Boilermakers, Local 28 here in New Jersey, and that's definitely one of the best things that I did for myself after coming home. It not only put me in a position to once again learn to work as a team member, especially in this new world of civilian life, but I made incredible friendships that I still talk to this day. I learned skills and trades such as welding and other types of metalwork that I never would have been able to learn at the time. And more importantly, I think that position gave me an opportunity to regain that confidence in myself and my work. And that confidence allowed me to realize that, you know, I had a calling to social work. And although I absolutely was heartbroken to walk away from that hands-on work, because I absolutely love it, it did give me the confidence to pursue what I really felt like I needed to. And that's pursuing a education and career in social work. I think that's, you know, a little bit about me. To this day, I still, even though I'm not using Helmets to Hardhats, I remain on Mr. DiMeo's mailing list, as well as the national organization's mailing list. And I send out every opportunity that comes across my table to every guy I know in the area, across the states. I think the program is beyond incredible. The work they do for veterans is unmatched, and I love this opportunity to broadcast it. Thank you so much for that.
Mark, and Jeff, if I may, I mean, that's a great point. I like to keep people on the email chain, especially. Our program is, for the most part, word of mouth. So when I send something to Mark, and I know that whether he's with the Boilermakers and now obviously here with you guys, that, hey, you know, he probably knows someone that can use this information, or that doesn't know about Helmets to Hardhats. So we like to keep it a community in that regard. So I really do appreciate, and I'll keep you on there, and I do appreciate you forwarding all that stuff on. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Word of mouth is so incredibly important. And again, that's one of our hopes behind hosting this webinar, is that we can raise awareness of the program among social workers who are working with veterans and their family members, so that they know that these types of programs and resources are out there to help vets succeed. So thank you both again. And Mark, thank you for your service. Razia salutes you. Razia says 82nd Brigade. I salute you, Mark. Thanks, Razia.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why don't we, we've got about 15 minutes left. So why don't we open up the floor to some questions? Just raise your Zoom hand if you'd like, and we can ask you to unmute, or if you'd like to prefer to type in the chat, you can do that as well. While we're waiting, I do have one question that you may be able to answer, Chris. Earlier in the presentation, you were talking about how some people don't necessarily qualify for different positions or jobs. They may not pass the test, or they may have other issues. And you know, are there resources made available to folks who don't necessarily qualify through this program so that they don't fall through the cracks?
Yeah, Jeff. So in terms of qualifying for our Helmets to Hardhat program, you know, when I mention other than honorable discharge, to me, that's not dishonorable. So we work with those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I would say dishonorable discharge, and depending upon what, you know, if you know, the individual is upfront with me, you know, I'll work with that individual too. So no one's disqualified from participating in Helmets to Hardhats. So that, I think that's important to understand. And a lot of the times with the other than honorable, it's such a minor offense. And that's something that, in my opinion, needs to be cleaned up on the VA and military side of things. You know, in terms of maybe not getting accepted into a trade union,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think I started by saying this is a competitive career path, and you know, getting accepted in, for instance, like the electricians, right? Just using that as an example, because it seems like everyone always wants to be an electrician, but you know, it may just be a matter of, you know, there are 25 guys or girls who are more qualified, or who are selected for whatever reason. There's a ranking system a lot of the times. You know, so if you do fall within a rank and file list, or you're outright, you know, denied that particular opportunity at that particular time, you could always go back and reapply, right? Sometimes it takes multiple times to get into a trade union. I know that's hard to swallow if you're, you know, well into your 30s and 40s, and we've even had apprentices up into their 50s. But, you know, for a young guy or girl detaching from the military, in their early 20s or mid 20s, you know, coming back again a second time or even potentially a third time, you know, use the first time as a learning experience, you know, showing you're proactive and dependable. And again, it's, you know, proving that you're committed, you know, because we're making an investment in you when we bring you in. So one of the things that always occurs is if we, you know, and it's not saying veterans in particular, just any, you know, anyone off the street, a year goes by and then they leave. And then that's kind of like money, you know, it's thought of as like money down the toilet, right? So if you can prove that you're committed, come back the next year, I think you stand that much more of a chance to get accepted into a program, right? I'm not sure if that's exactly what the question you're asking, but this is something that we, you know, it's not like the program is over for you if you don't get accepted into a program. You know, we're working with you, and many times, you know, someone may be open-minded and say, hey, I want to be an electrician, but I also would be a carpenter or a plumber, and they're applying to multiple opportunities, and they can most certainly do that. And if they get accepted into all three, well, then they got a great hard decision to make. And if they don't get accepted into electricians, you know, maybe they can fall back and go into the carpenters, right? And a lot of the times they'll tell me, hey, Chris, well, you know, I'm going to try to get back into the electricians next year. And if that's what they want to do, and if that's where their heart sends them, fantastic. But a lot of the times, once you start building within a trade union, they stick it out there. And again, like they're all opportunities to earn money and great benefits. And it's, you know, it's most of the times they stick to that particular trade, but they can always go back and reapply, and we'll always work with them as long as they're registered with me.
That's basically what I was wondering. Thank you for clarifying. I guess the question I really wanted to ask, and I didn't have the language for it, I guess, was if they're not accepted into a trade union, it's not like they're out on the street. They're still in the helmets program. They still have opportunities to pursue with other trade unions. They can come back. So that's fantastic. I just was concerned that people were going to be, you know, left with nothing if they couldn't get in the first time. So that's really great to hear. Any other questions for Chris? Great.
Jeff,
Yeah,
I have one question for Chris, and I hope I package it the right way. So as a military spouse, I constantly think about transitioning out of the military. So my question for you is, if you find a local helmet to hard hat program in your state, do you have to wait until you're fully detached and separated from the military to start the application, or is it something that you can marry or couple with your SFO tap out of the military?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and we see it all, right? We you know, we've had people overseas who, you know, who get the process started with us, and just to start there, yeah, I mean, to get started with helmets to hard hats, that you can, you know, like you have a husband who's maybe potentially looking into a trade union. It sounds like he can most certainly get registered with me if he's in New Jersey, or nationally if it's a state outside of New Jersey. But yeah, there are opportunities to start the application process if you're not home, so to speak, right? You know, if the carpenters are going to do a recruitment process on a particular date and it's in person, well, if you can get there for that date, you can apply. Sometimes there's time lapse between then and when the entrance exam would be, or when the interview would be. Now, I know that's easier said than done, and sometimes orders take you to a place where you don't even have computer access or phone access. So yeah, in those particular situations, it can become tricky. Now, I mentioned because of the pandemic, a lot of the trade unions are going to a more online virtual process. So yeah, I mean, no one's gonna say you can't apply because you're not physically there and through the entire process, right? So it's tough to answer, but I've seen it done before. I've seen individuals knowing that they're going to detach within months, start the process, and then knowing that they're going to detach and be able to test, interview, and then start work. And there's been times where it just didn't work out logistically, and they had to wait it out. So I think it's a per case situation.
Thank you, Chris. That makes sense.
You're welcome.
We have a few minutes left. If there are any other questions for Chris, you can type them in the chat or raise your Zoom hand. While we're waiting, I do have another question, just following up on the resources that are available to folks that are in the Helmets to Hard Hats program. And you know, you had listed some of the services that you help connect people to. So I know a lot of veterans are going to be coming out and dealing with issues related to PTSD or other mental health issues. So are there connections available as well to help get people hooked up with mental health services or with the VA health services if they need them and they haven't been able to connect to those yet?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a few avenues. I mean, most of the time it is the VA, and you know, I know that sometimes that could be a bridge hard to cross. But you know, a lot of the times they're getting that support within the trade union if they are accepted in. You know, especially with like disabilities, for instance. You know, a lot of, you know, a veteran will think, oh, well, I can't go be a carpenter because I have this particular disability, which is not ever the case unless they're physically unable to do the work, right? I mean, you have to be able physically be able to do the work, and you know, a lot of this stuff is physical and demanding on the body, but you know, but yeah, I mean, and to answer your question, there are resources to help, but you know, usually it's the VA who helps with those types of things. And you know, it depends on the participant whether they even want to share information like that with me. They're more inclined to share, like I said, with their membership in their trade union. But I'm here to help. I mean, like I said, if I'm, you know, if a serviceman and woman, veteran, you know, active, inactive, if they're looking for assistance, I'll most certainly help.
Was there something specific that happened in New Jersey that led to developing the program that has this intense, more intense, you know, one-to-one time and work that you're able to do with people that the other states aren't doing?
Yeah. So the other state, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why the other states aren't actively trying to pursue, you know, their own individual Helmets to Hard Hat program. But Helmets to Hard Hat is a national program, right? Like the name, the rights to the name, the logo, all that stuff. It is a national program. The national program allows us to use that name and that logo, which we attach to our New Jersey Building Trades logo, which they allowed us to do as well, to operate our particular program here. Now, their funding is through the National Building Trades, right? And that's good. Our funding is actually through the New Jersey Department of Labor. So that gives us the funds to do this type of program. So we're not, you know, we're not just a, you know, resource to say, hey, you know, go here or go there. Like we developed this program here with the intent to help veterans on a one-on-one basis. So it was created before my time. So I don't know what the thought process was behind it, but I could say this: Bill Mullen, who is the president of the New Jersey Building Trades and who oversees the program, and obviously who's my boss, is a veteran himself. And so he, you know, he's an advocate for hiring veterans and bringing them into the trade unions. And he thinks that they're the best potential member, right? You can't find a better character. Like I mentioned earlier, you can't find someone with better leadership and character qualities. That's exactly what you need to succeed in an apprenticeship program, and then ultimately a trade worker, right, within the union. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully that answers you.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, and we are just about at 1 o'clock. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us today and sharing all this great information. I look forward to receiving the resources, the slides, and links to follow up and send to people. Give us, you know, 24 to 48 hours, folks, and that stuff should be out to you. And Mark, thank you for making this connection for us and helping to set it up, and for sharing a little bit of your story. You know, it helps to hear how people have been personally impacted by these types of programs. So thank you all for joining us today for this community conversation, and we will see you for our next community conversation, which is later this month. We're having a conversation with the League of Women Voters of New Jersey about changing to voter laws in New Jersey and efforts in New Jersey to protect access to the vote. So hopefully you may be interested in joining us there. You can find the information on our events calendar at naswnj.org. Thank you all for joining us today, and be well.